Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. A lot happened in 2024 and I wanted to break down some of the data from the end of the year and also talk about the industry and the channel. I heard from so many of you in the last 3 months, especially from developers. You all had a lot to say and I really appreciate you all for sharing your experience and insight with me.
So, good year for you?
Yeah, it was, and I'm excited for this year.
All right.
I have a lot planned.
I know you're going to talk about that in the next podcast,
yes,
not
in the
this one.
Yeah, in the next podcast.
This is looking back. The next one is looking forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, let's start with the trends that we've seen over the last year. So there were almost 19,000 new games on Steam, and more than 10% of those were made specifically for adults. And that doesn't even include the 1,400 new games on Patreon.
So that's over 3,000 games?
Yeah, it's an insane amount. And that's awesome. However, it isn't all great. Like, we've had increased censorship from Visa and MasterCard, as well as crackdowns of creators and developers in Europe and Asia and Australia. And those are some of the places with the most people who play adult games. So this is definitely I don't want to call it a hypocrisy, but...
How about we call it a disconnect?
Yeah, a disconnect in those places. Like, for example, there was a huge number of games being made in Taiwan that are being played by mainland Chinese gamers. Well, I don't think we need me to explain why that is. I'm sure that many of you will have plenty to say in the comments. Just good luck with the YouTube filter.
You're sending them to their doom.
I really am. But speaking of China, the biggest growth we saw this year on Steam is from gamers who use the Chinese language, well, specifically simplified. In August, for the first time, simplified Chinese passed English as the #1 language of players on Steam. Overall, for 2024, English was still #1, but it is reasonable to expect simplified Chinese and English to represent more than 70% of the total player base, with Russian taking a distant third at around 10%.
So that's over 80% of gamers.
Yeah.
3 languages.
Yeah, and Russian is just... in the third.
But you got to have something as third.
Yeah, I know, but it's just funny how it's like 10%.
I think it's interesting that traditional Chinese, in Taiwan, the people making the games use traditional Chinese.
Yes.
And that's like less than 2%.
Yes.
It's an interesting symbiosis.
Yeah, it is. This is absolutely impacting the adult game space, with the top games of 2024 almost all having both English and simplified Chinese as supported languages. I actually had a number of the most successful developers on Steam talk to me about this over the past few months and how this change is really impacting their review scores much more than it is impacting actual sales and revenue.
How much of that are you able to share? Is that were those private conversations?
I think I would like to keep them private.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to share.
At least maybe put together something in the future with permission.
Yeah, definitely with permission. I don't want to say anything, just start something. I don't know.
Well, how about for you? You can talk about your channel. So.
Well, yeah. I'm actually sort of in a similar situation. So if you look at the videos where I cover the most popular games in Asia, they don't get as many views as when I focus on games that are more popular in Europe and the Americas, which makes sense. I mean, most of my viewers are from Europe and the Americas. So
there's a gap there.
Yeah, there is a gap there.
So you need to get on Bilibili.
I mean, I guess.
I don't think
I could do it. Yeah, I don't think I could do anything on there. But don't worry, I am going to continue to let you all know what the most popular games are from across the world, including the most popular games in Japan. And that kind of brings us to Taiwan. There has been an explosion of successful developers and publishers in Taiwan, like Mango Party and Play Meow, and there are a lot of reasons for this, but I'm going to talk more about this in my next podcast.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So, aside from that, have there been other trends that you've seen in 2024?
Oh, okay. Well, so here's the part of the podcast where I'm gonna piss people off.
Is that a yes?
Oh, hold on. And I usually, well, kind of. I usually have you say these things, but I think
that's right. Especially in the beginning, you had me talk about all the stuff. So I got my own hate club. I appreciate that. You know?
Yeah. But I feel like if you were to say these things, then that would really piss people off.
So you only want to piss them off so much with me. You don't want to really piss them off.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Slightly.
I do kind of feel bad about how much of a villain I've been cast as.
Oh, that's why you're so supportive of Gaston.
Oh my God. Please, no.
Don't make sense now.
You can save that for the next time you do a Disney video.
You know, I actually want to do one for Halloween where I talk about flavors and games, and I'm actually really excited about that one.
Oh, God. Like an excuse to eat Disney food.
Oh, well, yes, a little bit. I did like the food when we were in Disney, but I think the Halloween...
You like Disney Sea better.
That's true. I do like Disney Sea. Well, because it's like Disney, but...
So the Halloween Disney Sea video.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, I already looked at the menu. I'm excited.
But the 2025 plans are in the next podcast.
Yes, they are.
So I'm getting the impression that you don't want to talk about these trends.
Well,
is it really that bad?
I don't want to make everybody angry. So,
but hold on. Okay. So this isn't your opinion, though. Isn't all this stuff data-driven? These aren't your personal opinions. They're the results of data you have collected.
Yeah, but I mean, that didn't stop people from thinking that all my year-end videos were personal opinions.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, like I even explained in each of the videos at the beginning where my results are coming from and what factors I consider. But I still get so many comments accusing me of bias and my personal opinion.
Especially about Subverse.
Yeah, well, okay. That's true. But, that's the literal opposite of what this channel is about. Like, I want to showcase as many flavors as I can and let you all know what's popular. If this was just my favorite games, it would just be Mario and farming and strategy games.
And open world cowboy games.
Yes, those too. But I think that's a very narrow selection of games.
That's the flavor cowboy.
It is.
All right. So now that you've made this tortured and convoluted disclaimer, what are the other trends that your data is showing that are totally not your opinion and have nothing to do with your actual gaming preferences and undying love of Arthur Morgan?
Okay, fine. So,
who John Marston's better than, by the way.
Oh, no. I've never played Red Dead Redemption 1.
Then how can you know one way or another?
Well, I didn't like him in Red Dead 2. So I at the end. Okay, I'm going to do a little spoilers. At the end, when you have to play him, I was literally bawling my eyes out. I'm like, why am I playing as this loser? It was just stupid. I was building a house. I was like, what even is this? Didn't the game end? It was just so stupid.
It was all downhill after he thanked the horse.
Yeah. Not the horse.
You need to have trigger warning.
I know. Stupid. Okay, so fine. I'll talk about them now.
The horse?
No, the trends.
Other things that are going to upset people.
Well, yes. Okay, so there are some trends that seem to be emerging. I've talked previously about how visual novels seem to be less popular compared to previous years. And that's not entirely true. So the adult game space has grown, but the popularity of visual novels has not grown with it. So that means we're seeing fewer visual novels at the top. There's still a ton of people who love to play them, but there are also just way more people in this space now that prefer other types of games. And that isn't a bad thing. More people means more types of games and hopefully more flavors. But, well, I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
So you're saying that visual novels, they're still successful and they're still popular.
Yeah.
It's just because they're, as opposed to what you said, 3,000 games?
Yes.
So 3,000 games and just less of them are visual novels now, or at least less in the top are visual novels. but you still might have, you know, where it used to be 1,000 games and you'd have 20 visual novels at the top. Now you have 3,000 games and 20 visual novels at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like if you look at last year's Steam list in 2023, 2023, I guess 2 years ago, visual novels, I think there were like 5 in the top, like gold and platinum together. There were 5. And this year, there was only 1, and it was Chasing Sunsets.
Wow.
Yeah. They have decreased.
Okay.
Well, the adult...
But it's also, I think, the Monochrome Fantasy game. That felt like a visual novel, but it just had more features to it.
It had more features.
So so we're still seeing visual novel aspects. Like people can argue Subverse has a big visual novel aspect. So we're seeing more features. It's not just a pure visual novel.
Yeah. Like with Chasing Sunsets, that's like pure visual novel. There's no mini games. There's no extra things. You do have like that affection stuff, but that's really it. It's a pure visual novel.
Now you were telling me but Daz. So what's the deal with that?
Well, so one of the aspects of visual novels that are less popular are the ones that use Daz characters.
And you're going to explain what that is.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
you get the question all the time.
Yeah, so. I know. So Daz is a company out of Utah that offers free software to make 3D characters and animations. And they make most of their money selling various assets and models of characters from their online store.
So the software is free. You just buy the extra things.
Yeah, and a lot of the most popular games of all time, most popular adult games of all time, use these assets and models. So like Being a Dick and Fresh Women and Treasure of Nadia, they all use Daz. And, you know, don't get me wrong, Daz is an amazing tool for people who want to make a game and don't have the resources to create their own art in animations, kind of like Subverse or Summertime Saga.
Yeah, you were saying that a Subverse hired like a Vietnamese studio to do a lot of the
Yeah.
animations.
Oh, what was it? Thundercloud Studio?
Well, I have no idea.
I think it was something like that. But yeah, they outsourced a ton of their things to make their game.
And Dark Cookie, you can watch him like actually draw.
Yeah, he streams his drawings a lot. So
which is really cool, but given the amount of time and energy that is, that's a huge investment.
Yes, it is.
So for people who aren't as artistic in that way, Daz is a resource.
Yeah, and we're still seeing a lot of great games being made with Daz, like the Symphony of the Serpent,
which is the latest in the
Treasure of Nadia.
Yeah.
NTL.
I don't think that's what he calls it. I think it's like he calls it the NLT version or something.
Yeah. So there are still games with Daz being made. It's just that there are probably been thousands of games made in the last 10 years that use Daz characters. So, like, if you think you've seen the same Daz models in one game and then another, you're probably right.
I'm having deja vu.
Yeah, like there's this one girl from Leap of Faith that I just know her as the Leap of Faith girl, and then I see her in other games.
Don't they all have names too? Because when you buy them,
yes,
Daz
they do.
Gives them a name.
Yes, they do. I don't know what her Daz name is, but I just know her as the singer in Leap of Faith, and every time I see her, I'm just like, oh,
there she's again.
Yeah, it's like the multiverse.
It's like a very popular actress. You start seeing them in a lot of movies.
Yeah, basically. You know, they actually did that with a Barbie movie. They had her as like
you and your Barbie movies.
They had this movie where she was like an actress, and that's where all the past Barbie movies were.
Oh, so they were like building the Barbie cinematic universe?
Yes, yeah. Okay. It was crazy. It was crazy for my 8-year-old mind.
I had to do Barbie world building.
Yes. And I've actually been calling the decline in popularity with Daz games Daz Fatigue with my patrons on my Discord.
All right. Okay.
You know.
And I know you hate doing self-promotion, so I'll do it for you.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely join Annie's Patreon. There's a free membership tier that gives you a better way to keep up with content than YouTube provides. It's also... They don't get censored by YouTube with the comments. You have so many people that like get really angry. They think you're like going there and censoring and deleting comments.
Yeah, I know. And I'm just like, it's not me, guys.
And because and almost all of your posts on Patreon are free. I think very few of them are are for
Yeah, for
paid
the
patrons.
tiers. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I do have monthly updates and other benefits for paying patrons as well. But I understand that the world is a hard place right now.
The world is on fire right now.
In
Literally.
some parts, yeah. And I know that most people can't afford to support me financially, even if they want to. And I'm amazed at how supportive this community has been over the past 4 years. And I just want to say that you all are amazing.
God, it'll be 4 years, next month?
Yeah, actually.
And
Yeah, February.
I still remember when you pitched this idea and I made the mistake of saying, ask your mom. Little did I know she'd say yes, and now we'd be living on the other side of the world.
Okay, hold on. You can't blame me for the other side of the world part. That was totally mom.
Fair enough. Okay, so what else have you noticed trending in the data?
Well, so...
Ghost in the machine.
So I have talked about the increase of censorship and bans in our space.
Yeah.
Like, certain things are the same. Like, if you're going to make an anime style looking game on Steam, then you better have a patch to come with it.
Yeah, adult content game.
Yes,
Yeah.
an anime style adult content game on Steam, then you have to have a patch with it. And because otherwise the game is going to get banned regardless of the flavors that you actually put in the game. And that's not new, and it has been that way for years.
Is this why you think Gabe hates cat girls?
Gabe hates cat girls? It could be. It could be. He's like, get all those cat girls away from me. I mean, but they think you have Nekopara on. And
it's the one that slipped through.
Yeah.
The cat cafe was acceptable.
Yeah, he's like, fine. They're working at a cafe. It's fine.
Now, you were saying, speaking of cat girls, you were saying that furry is getting banned more.
Yeah, monster and furry games. We are seeing them getting banned, like getting more banned over the last year, as well as many LGBTQ plus games. Now, I get that may not be your flavors, but the people who are pushing to ban and censor games are never going to stop pushing to ban and censor games. Every flavor we lose is one step closer to banning a flavor that you do care about. These are games for adults, and adults should have the freedom to choose what flavors they want to explore. Why, when we deny people that freedom, there's always a negative impact to mental health, and absolutely always a massive increase in crime. These are video games. I get that there are some people who have trouble differentiating video games from real life, but that just means that we need to help those people get the care and medical attention they need to, hopefully someday, be able to distinguish fantasy from reality.
Yeah, I have no idea why you thought that these topics would piss people off. Absolutely no idea at all.
Look, the whole point of this channel is to help promote the safe and healthy exploration of sex and sexuality in video games. I'm not going to pretend that the people who are actively censoring and banning these games aren't making the world a more dangerous place. They may not know that they are responsible for making the world worse, but if we don't call them out for it, then who will?
Annie calling out Patreon after saying, come to my Patreon.
Listen, it's a hard world that we live in right now. So, it's just, violent video games don't make people more violent. It's pretty clear that they actually reduce violent crime. In the same way, adult games reduce sexual crimes and help with a whole bunch of other aspects of being a human. But I'll talk more about that in a few months.
Oh yeah, you're doing a thing maybe.
Yeah. Just a thing.
So,
I haven't said anything yet.
You're like teasing everything here.
I know.
So what else from last year?
So the end of the year videos are taking more and more time to make, given how many more games are coming out each year. So I will probably need to make a massive format change. But I'd love to hear what you all think. I can tell you right now that I want to stay with data-driven lists. I don't want to just be a popularity vote or a ridiculous cabal of people who know nothing about what people actually like.
You're totally calling out Jeff Keighley in the Video Game Awards.
Yeah, have you actually looked at the panel that he uses that counts for 90% of the votes for the Game Awards?
So we probably should explain that. So It's there is a popular vote, but the popular vote counts for 10% of the total score.
Yeah,
and
which
then
is like
all
nothing.
of these journalists and publications that he use, that's 90% of the score.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. Like, you'd get more accurate results about what the better games were each year if you pulled the hot tub streamers on Twitch.
Would we get to see Asmongold in a bikini if they did that?
Ooh, probably? I really hate you for putting that image in my mind, though.
He'd be on a little floaty. Oh, and
With duckies?
You get like a teeny little, and like the cockroaches could float along too. And
Oh.
do they get a vote?
The cockroaches? I mean, might as well.
Hey, they've probably seen a lot of video game related things.
Oh, gosh. But, speaking of image,
I don't know what you're transitioning to now, and I'm scared to ask.
Well, I was just thinking about this. There were a lot of requests to add a Best Female Protagonist game to the end of year awards. But I'm really torn about this, and female protagonist isn't really a flavor.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like male protagonist game. That's like...
I know, that's...
Yeah.
Like, if we were to look at the most popular female protagonist games in this space currently, then that would just be top corruption game.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine category, but my worry is that I don't think that's what people are actually asking for. I mean, I've talked about this in previous videos, so I'd really love to hear from those of you asking for this category. Like, let me know what you are actually asking for, like in detail. Feel free to post on Patreon or Discord if the YouTube filter
It's blocking you.
I know.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I think if you look at the categories you cover, one of the things that you're not talking about it. I think people I don't think they want female protagonist games as much as they want maybe games for women.
Yeah, and I want them. I want to be clear. I want them to be
Those
clear
are
with
two
me.
very different things.
Yeah.
At least right now, those are two very different things.
Yeah, I mean, the only female protagonist game that I can think of where there's like no corruption is the Hong Kong one, A Summer's End. Like, and it was really popular.
Yeah.
But like that's the only one that I can think of right now. And female protagonist corruption games, I can think of at least 3 right now.
Yeah.
Off just the top of my head.
And if we're looking at games that women play, those are going to be disproportionately yaoi games. And yaoi games consistently show up in your year-end list, so you're already kind of doing that in a way. But they could be looking for something else.
Yeah, I would just like more detail, more information, just so I know what you guys want.
You are a brave person, a woman on the internet speaking out to a mostly male audience and saying, I want more information, guys.
Well, I don't want to do a whole corruption list and then
God
just
help
saying,
you.
and then just saying, no, this is not what we were asking for. And be like, oh, okay. I'm also planning on making more videos this year talking about what flavors are and going into detail about what the most popular flavors represent. And I think I'm going to have to use non-adult movies and books to talk about these things, to be able to have them on YouTube. We'll see how that goes. This is a work in progress, so let me know what you think. But I think I will be releasing one later this month.
Yeah. You were going to release it this summer, and then it just never happens.
It just never happens, yeah.
You get a lot of that. And the thing that when you were going over your data from the last year, you've almost doubled the number of subscribers and doubled the number of views. So there's a huge number of people that may never have watched your early videos talking about flavors more in detail, explaining the most popular flavors more in detail. And you're right, YouTube really doesn't allow you to talk about things. It's crazy watching some of your older videos.
Yeah, what I could say back then, it's crazy. And what I could show, oh my God, if you go back to like it is insane. It's so, it's a miracle that I'm still on YouTube. honestly, with the stuff that I talked about.
Well, it's what is allowed and what is not, and what is tolerated and what is not tolerated. That changes. And when you're on something that's considered marginal, the difference between being on the right side of the margin and the wrong side of the margin is the difference between being a channel and being banned.
Yep. Thank you all so much for being a part of this community over the last year. I have so much planned for 2025, and I can't wait to share all of that with you in the next podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of Shame Free Gaming, be sure to check out my YouTube channel, my Patreon, and my Discord. I will link to all of the resources and games that I used on my Patreon page, and I will see you next time.